They're there. They're on our fucking laps. Take the fucking sprinkles. Hello, and welcome to the Weeder Life podcast. I'm your host, Erica Weederlight, and I am the CEO and founder of We the Light. I help humans who feel inadequate, broken, self-conscious, and shamed around their sexuality to reclaim their aliveness, their power, and to have a renewed relationship to pleasure while preparing themselves to feel hella confident to date others and themselves. AKA, I'm guiding people to live their #best lives. I have to give you a fair warning. I do unfortunately swear like a drunken sailor, so if you do have little ones by you, just be sure to pop in some earbuds. All right, friends, let's buckle up and let's rock it to this week's episode. And we're back to give. And we're back to give. If this is, hi, first and foremost, but if you, well, do whatever the fuck you want. I support you and your life choices. But if you're like me, a Virgo or a Earth sign that needs things in succession or in order, I would suggest going back to listen to the episode before this on receiving. Or if you're like, fuck it, I want to do it my way, I support you. I did it my way. So whatever journey you want to be on, I support that journey. I sign off on it. God bless. Let's do this up. So we're talking about giving. So last week I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do an episode on giving and receiving. And then I was like, you know what? I know if I listened to an episode about giving and receiving, I would just... because my ego's a tricky minx, I just would have extracted the giving part. And I'm like, that's nice about the receiving, but like just giving. And there's like, we love giving. Like giving is fabulous. We need giving more than ever in this world, right? Like we need to give, first of all, like there's so many things that we can give to. We can give time, money, love to so many places. Like there's so many places that need our attention. Isn't it interesting that there's so many places that need our attention, and yet our attention, I know for me, so often is on silly shit like worrying, scrolling. My grandma used to say this, and she would say, I'm butchering it, but this is from my mom. She would say to get out of any funk she was in, she would always give. Because she realizes, holy shit, there's so much more. And she's like, there's so much more going on. And my problems are, of course they're important. We don't want to invalidate ourselves, but there's so much, they can be more trivial than some of these other stuff. Again, disclaimer on this. I'm not making any of our problems smaller or wrong compared to others. You know what I'm saying when I say this. And she would do that, and she also would see, and what I'm trying to highlight here is, wow, I'm getting lost in my thoughts, I'm getting lost in my head, I'm getting lost in scrolling or binge watching. Again, there's nothing wrong with binge watching or scrolling, we're making it all right, but like, when we're just like actively going unconscious, we're actively sleeping, there's so much, and we don't want, here's the thing, hold on, I need to get really grounded for this. There's a space for that, right? Like we are producing, we're doing things, we deserve rest. If you want to fucking scroll and go unconscious, God bless, right? The conversation that I'm talking about is when it's needless, when it's relentless, right? So if you're like, Erica, and I talked about this a few episodes, like I relax by watching Game of Thrones. Watching 3 hours of Game of Thrones. Yes, go! I support that. What I am saying is living a life full of numbness, full of unconsciousness, full of avoidance. Got me? So if there's time here and there where you're like, bitch, I need to scroll, I'm like, show me what you got. I love a good scroll too. Like, I love to find the recipes, love to find, all the great things. Like, believe me, of course there's space for that. And what I am talking about is when there's a life full of being in our own way. You know what I mean? Like, so it's funny. Last week I talked about receiving. And I think there needs to also be a conversation around like fine lines, right? Or like the middle ground. Cause it's like receive. And how am I giving to myself, but also how am I giving to this planet? How am I giving to others? So let's go back to grandmama. So my graham cracker, that's what I used to call her, and she'd be like, oh God. But I was like, Granny, my gram would say, I'm just thinking about her. So I just had a little moment. But she used to say that's how she would get out of her stuff, right? Is she would help others. Because so often we could spiral out. I know for me, because I have a tendency to spiral, because I work with my anxiety. But here's the thing. When I hop on the call with someone else, I'm like, oh, yes, Erica, this is so not so important. There has to be a fine line of us giving to ourselves so deeply and we could receive to feel fed. And then also giving to such how do I say this? Not giving to such an absurd degree, but let's be real, being so selfish. You know what I mean? Like, what is the fine line that you are fucking well-nourished, well-fed, and by food, but life, by sex, by all, like, I want you to be/feel so well-grounded, alive, radiant, that you can give to others. But here's the thing. The second piece has to happen. So often in self-improvement work, it's like, or self-empowerment, it's like, me, which I'm like, fuck yeah, because here's the thing. When we are radiant and alive, we can give to others. We add love. We add lightness to this planet. But so often it's like, where's the ... Like, where is the, instead of like, me, and then I'm also going to unconsciously scroll for hours and hours, and it's all going to be about me. Where's the conversation about like, where's the conversation about others? You know what I mean? So I'm like, there's a delicate balance. And what grandma was saying was that always helped her get out of her shit, right? And my mom, I remember recently, I think the last few years, I was spiraling about something like, love myself, but like very dumb. And my mom was like, you got to get out of your own way. And I'm like, Mom, I know. I'm a fucking coach. But I'm like, Mom, I know. And she's like, remember, grandma used to always say, that's how she got out. And what I'm getting at here, I'm not hitting it quite yet. I'm scratching the surface. But when I serve, I get out of my own shit. I'm not like, and then I did this and that was weird and I'm going to spiral about it. It's like, no, let me turn my energy to serving. And you could serve in so many different ways, right? Like, the stereotypical ways of, promoting charities or giving money or giving time, volunteering, or like, if you're like, that's not accessible to me right now, like, how am I going to give love? It could be as simple as texting a friend and being like, I love you. Thank you for being fabulous. These are the reasons why I love you. You know what I mean? Like, that is the energy that we need in this planet. Like I was saying before, isn't it so interesting that the planet, the world right now is in desperate need of so much, right? Like, not so much, but like resources, love, care, time, and attention. And we're like, oh my God, what? Meanwhile, like all unconsciously, I keep saying scrolling, but I scroll too, please. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's a way I dissociate, but you get what I'm saying with that, right? Like, we're like, oh my God, how? It's like, oh. So, and also when we give, we receive. Like, I know for me, like, I fucking love gift giving. Or I love gift receiving, but like nothing better to me is like gift giving, where I'm like, oh my God, and it doesn't have to be extravagant, but like, oh my God, what am I going to write in their card? Or what would bring them joy? Or what do they need? Like, that makes me feel alive. And we talked about that last week. I was talking about like, when we don't allow others to give, we rob them. This is another way we cut them short, right? Because it feels really fucking good to receive. And if we're like, no, it's like, oh, like you're robbing them of that excitement, of that love, of that radiance. So there's a lot I want to talk about, but does the grandma thing, I'm not really hitting it, but do you get what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying with that? Like, when I am so in my shit of like, oh my God, like, did I wear this? Should I have said this right? Oh my God, this was weird. It's like, hun, you're wasting a lot of time on, and again, I'm saying this with a lot of compassion for my anxiety brain, but like, my love, like, we're wasting time. Time is a precious resource. Your energy is a precious resource. So instead of, and again, it will happen, but instead of spending so much time on trivial shit, like making myself wrong and finding wrongness about myself and comparing myself to people on social media and like that energy, what would it be like, you know what? Fuck, I'm going to choose something else. I'm going to choose something different. I'm going to choose something that supports me and others. Okay, maybe that's sending 10 minutes. Maybe that's sending $10 to a charity. Or maybe you're like, that's not it. Maybe it's, I'm going to individually write people that I love a love note. Or I am going to write a great review about a small business. Feel free to write a great review about this podcast. Give me 5 stars. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to give back. And it doesn't need to be 4 hours. I know we are all crazy busy. But you know what? Today, how am I going to give? How's my 5 minutes? You know what? I'm going to give that small business 5 stars. I am going to, when my barista makes me my drink, instead of whipping it from the table, I'm going to say thank you so much. I hope today you have a great day, and I hope something fabulous happens to you. Does that make sense? Like, I think we so often don't realize our energy is currency, like can be, it could be a little sticky, but go with me, can be currency in a way where we kind of hoard to ourselves, like, oh, fuck, I gotta reserve all of these like, it's like acorn energy, like, I gotta keep these acorns to myself. Where it's like, when we give, when we overflow, first of all, we light up, but that's ways to like spread sprinkles around the planet. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like, this is a weird fucking example, but it's almost like if the sky was pouring sprinkles or sparkles into our lap or into our hands. And it is consistent, but we didn't know, right? We didn't know that it was consistently like dumping these sprinkles. But our scarcity brain tells us, oh, fuck, you better hold on to those sprinkles. You better hold on to those sprinkles. You never know when they're going to come. And meanwhile, like the people up in the sky that are pouring, like the angels that are pouring the sprinkles are like, wait, hold on. Don't they know that like we pour them every day? Like, what's happening? And so we hoard this energy and we're like, oh my God, I have to. And again, there needs to be a little bit of selfishness, right? Where we know how to take care of ourselves and nourish ourselves. We need to know about that. And I will talk about that in a second. But it's the analogy. The scarcity story, right, tells us, oh, keep it to yourself. You only have a finite amount of energy. So, you got to use that for work. You got to use that for your relationships. And you're so burnt out, you have to use that to like scroll on TikTok or do the things. And again, not making that wrong. There is truth to that. But what if we just looked up and saw, oh my God, look how cute that cherub is. Oh my God, fuck, that cherub is pouring in that energy every day. You know, like there's unlimited amount of love that I can give. And there's a caveat here, right? Sometimes when we feel so fucking burnt out, when we've experienced trauma, when life feels fucking relentless, you're like, there's not a morsel more I can give. So I want to put that out there. And what I'm talking about is energy. So I'm not saying write a $25,000 check. I'm not saying, when you're so burnt out, just, listen to a friend for a 4-hour conversation. What I'm saying is, can we be more mindful? Can we be more conscious of our energy? And it's small tweaks, right? You still got to go to the coffee shop. You still got to get the coffee. So instead of, like I said, just thanks and taking that shot of espresso, it's thank you so much. Same time. Thank you so much. I really hope something great happens to you today. Instead of, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same energy. It's the same time, but it's what would happen if I focused my energy in a more expansive giving way? What if I remembered, fuck, I have sprinkles and I have fucking fabulous sparkles in my lap and it comes down every day. I can give this. I can give these sparkles to myself. I can give these to others. And guess what? It doesn't have to be that $25,000 check. The sprinkles could be just letting someone go, on the street. It could be letting a friend borrow your favorite book. It can be giving your friend a compliment. It can be seeing a YouTube meditation that you love or YouTube talk that you love and sending it to a friend. It doesn't need to be these like huge. I think so often with giving, we feel like it needs to be like this, like, I'm bearing it all. Like, I'm bearing blood, sweat, and tears. And like, there's times in life where that has to happen. But what I'm talking about is the fucking sprinkles. Like the fucking sprinkles and the sparkles. Because when we work with the sprinkles and the sparkles, like we are the planet. The people are thirsty for the sprinkles and the sparkles. And I think I'm here to remind us, they're there. They're on our fucking laps. Take the fucking sprinkles. Take the sprinkle cookie and make them a rainbow cookie. You know what I'm talking about? So taking the sprinkles and sprinkling it, and it doesn't have to be a crazy exchange. That's the thing of, I'm getting out of my own way, right? Like, okay, I have a lot of shit going on. That is real. I'm working through real things. End, right? Like, we may be working through really fucking deep shit, and a lot may be happening in our lives. And I'm going to turn, and maybe I don't have full capacity to give, bleed. But maybe it's just, hey, I love you. Hey, I'm going to share this article. Hey, I don't really actually have a lot to give, so I'm just going to smile. Not from a place of like smile because, so you're happy. No, like a genuine, I'm going to find love in this moment. Does that make sense? So that's where I was going with the grandma stuff, was when she was in her shit, she would turn to giving, not from a place of overdue, even though I think I love her so much, but I think my siblings and my cousins and I, hey cousins, are breaking that lineage of overgiving. But I think she had the tendency to overgive, and I don't want to speak for her, but because what I knew of her, I think she did tend to overgive. She gave her fucking heart. I love that beautiful baby. But what she was suggesting to my mom was giving from it doesn't have to be this crazy thing. I could just, say hi to a friend and get out of my own fucking way. That's it. That's the thing. Get out of my own way and connect with another. I saw this a lot, actually, when I was, kind of working for other people in the beginning of my career, when I was working for other coaches or thought leaders, and they would have group programs, and that's what, tap on my back, what trained me so well to lead my own groups, which is, I don't know if you know this about me, but in addition to my one-on-one coaching, I also do group coaching, and that's group coaching with my one-on-one clients, and we do big group coaching, and it's fabulous. And what trained me, one of the many things, honestly, that trained me to be, I'm going to brag, well trained in that, was experience. And I, for many years, led many circles, led in many groups. And what was so interesting, and this experience was something that I will always fucking remember, was years back, I was in, I think it was a group. I was leading a group, and it was a lot of like anxiety, like amazing humans, but they were suffering, I think it was like more anxiety focused. I'm trying to think back, but it was like overwhelming anxiety. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm having anxiety, tee-hee. It was like, I am so in my shit. I am so in my own way. Like, ugh. And I've been there. So that's why I was like, I got you. Let's do this. And I remember on one of the, it wasn't a call, it was an in-person. I'll say one of the calls. I'm so used to that. And like the Zoom days, I'm like, one of the calls, but one of the in-persons, people came in and we were talking about the struggles, and there was this amazing man that really, which I was like, fuck yeah, bring it. Like, that is why we're here, like, to bring it. And he brought his stuff, and he was really fucking struggling. He was like, oh my God, like, this really was in his feels. And I was like, fuck yeah, this is the place to be. And why I want to highlight this is the magic, first of all, that happened for him, right? Because he transformed when he shared his truth, and he was witnessed by love and support. Here's what's also fucking wild. I had some people walk in that day before we, sat down and did the things, and they were like, I'm freaking out. I don't even know if I should be here. My anxiety is so bad. I'm like, okay, like, let's just feel into it. Let's stay for a little bit. And those people, let me tell you, were the people that coached is too aggressive of a word, but like coached and supported the shit out of him. So he was in his panic, he was in his freak out, and they're like, we got you. And I was like, holy shit. And I saw them moving right towards the edge of the chairs, and they're like, we got you. We have you. We're supporting you. We love you. And I saw, there's a few people of mine that I'm thinking of, and especially the people, there's one person that's really coming to mind. And before the group was really struggling, and the one that was like, how am I possibly going to do this? And they sat at the edge of their chair, and they like empowered. And they're like, listen to me right now. We got you. We got this. They were like, I was like, oh my God, go, go, go. Like, you're onto something. They're like, I see you. I fucking feel you. I'm with you. They were giving this person, not that this is from advice, but support, witnessing, holding. Boom. I saw this person fucking physically transform in their body because they're like, we got you. Do you get where I'm going with this? Do you get where I'm going? So, of course, there's caveats. Sometimes we are genuinely in our shit because we are genuinely in our shit. But I remember so clearly that person came to me that day and said, I don't know. And they fucking transformed when they held someone else. And I remember talking to them after and I said, let's talk about it. Like, let's frame. How do you feel? What's coming up? And they said, okay, I kind of get what you're saying now about giving to others. And they knew what I was talking about. That's not from an unhealthy place. It's not from a bypassy way of like, I feel like shit, let me give to others. No. They're like, I get it. I get it. They're like, that so got me out of my shit. And I was like, great, why? They're like, because I saw that there's so much going on bigger than me, that I'm not, what was powerful was they're like, I didn't feel like a victim. They're like, when I started holding that person and cheering them on and supporting them, I realized, fuck, I'm powerful. And I realized if I can get them out of a funk, I can get myself out of a funk. Powerful, right? Like, I wish this was a movie and I could show you the arc of that, like how fucking powerful. And they saw that they also had the tools to empower themselves. They also saw and they felt, right? Because when we're in our shit, it's really hard to access, good feelings. But when they genuinely connected with someone else, when they genuinely poured love, they were like, oh, got it. That's how I feel good again, right? Like, sometimes pleasure isn't accessible to us when we're in our shit. You're like, you can absolutely go fuck yourself with your kombucha and your feather. Like, fuck you. Like, I'm in my shit. I'm going through some stuff. I don't want a fucking feather. You know what I mean? But like, sometimes the potent magic needs to come through the mud, to become the lotus. Does that make sense? Where it's like, oh, fuck yeah, I see you in your shit and I'm still going to stand by you and I'm still going to hold you. Does that make sense? Right? Like, I'm scratching the surface, but I think I think you're getting what I'm trying to say with my grandma's fabulous advice and with this experience that I saw years back in group, that we are transformed when we get out of our shit. Also, like, if we're gonna get like real woo, real spiritual, real kumbaya, like, we've become so like shut down in our own, again, we need selfishness, so go with me and we'll go to the receiving episode. We need to focus on ourselves, yes, duh. But we've become so, like, I know, I'm going to call myself out. I've become so, this is you, this little creepy crawly, it's embarrassing, but like a little bit self-obsessed. Not from like, I'm hot, but like, oh my God, my healing and my journey and my, like, but I had the freedom to do that, right? Like, I had the freedom for many years and the privilege to do that, of like, oh my God, in therapy I learned this, and in coaching I learned this, which I'm still going to fucking say those things changed my life. Therapy and coaching and this work has changed my life. It's where I got a little bit self-indulgent. Does that make sense? So it's a fine line of like, fuck yeah, tell me about therapy. Fuck yeah, tell me about coaching. Yes. Talk to me about that self-empowerment. Talk to me about how your life has changed. And where does it start to become like, just like, yeah, like, so for me, I can't talk to this person because I have boundaries. Like, we know when you're like, oh, bitch, you're using the tools in a weird fucking way. I see you using the tools in a weird fucking way. I know I talked about this before, but many years back when I went, on retreats, and people would say when I was, when I could not physically, I needed someone to push me in a wheelchair and I was stuck, and people would say, it's not my pleasure. Using the tools in a weird fucking way. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the work. Or when someone, I don't know, I'm making stuff up, but you get what I'm saying with, like, oh, that person gives me a bad vibe, boundaries. It's like, hold the fuck on. You know what I mean? Like, if that person's actually toxic and, not safe, duh. But like, I'm like, I think we've gotten a little bit too self-indulgent. Like, me and my healing and my healing and my healing. And I'm like, excuse you. Yes. God bless. I support it. Fuck yeah. And also, like, there's a collective. There is a collective. And what I love about this work doesn't only free me, but it frees, it can have the potential of freeing my family, my friends, clients, people around me. And what I talked about before with my amazing grandma, was, how do I say this? Like the responsibility feels too strong, but like the responsibility to change my lineage, meaning, for many years, like this is how the family worked. This is like we would, each family, each lineage, each community has their own, own story. And there's many different lineages and many different, for me, like my one side is very different. My dad's side is very different than my mom's side. And I think they have different, things to work on their particular story. But at least for the one I'm talking about now, the grandma that I talked about, there was my mom's side, there was, at least from the matriarch, there was a, overgiving, give everything to others thing that like I said, like I think, and I'm thinking of, my cousins and I, love ya, that we're changing this narrative. We're undoing, the stories of our lineage. We're changing the patterns. And how we're doing that is by going inward, of course, right? With our coaches, with our therapists. And it also needs to be from a place of touching others. Does that make sense? Like, yes. You know me. You know I love to go inward. If I could do a 5-hour fucking meditation a day, I would. Like, I love it. And we share this planet with so many other humans, beings, energy. We got to get out of our own fucking way. You know what I mean? I say that with so much love and compassion and humor, but there's truth to it. I think it's so beautiful, and I'm so glad that we're getting, like, this work is becoming hip, because I'm like, God bless, we all fucking need this. And I always say this to, when people do my free consultation, they're like, well, I'm working on this. I'm like, we all need this. Like, we all need this work. We all need cheerleaders. We all need support, because you know the deal. When I feel radiant, I'm going to be more likely to say thank you to the barista, or give a nice tip, or ask them how their day is. Like that. So there is so much genuine good in this work. And it's a damn shame. It's about damn time. But it's a damn shame if we don't then bring this up and out. Does that make sense? So yes. Inward. Fuck yeah. Do the things. But here's where I'm going. It's not meant to stay stuck there. Let's do the things. Let's move it. Let's jam it. Let's as I'm moving, I'm doing a hip circle. And it's not meant to stay stuck. It's meant to poof through us, move through us. The energy is meant to not only just be for me, but to be for you, for us to dance with the energy, be with the energy. I know I'm sounding really fucking spiritual. I'm like, light up the Palo Santo, but like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm sounding woo, but I think you're getting what I'm saying. The purpose of this work is it is such a gift to us. Boom. And why it's so powerful is it's a gift to others as well. Part of me is like, should I just end the podcast right there? No, that is a big chunk of what I want to talk about. I want to talk about something really juicy in a second, but before we do, I know I like briefly touched upon it, and if you're new here, you're probably like, what the fuck were you talking about? What was the session? So really briefly, and I know I talked about this last week, I love to give free merch. All my sweatshirts that I give away. I do need sweatshirts though. Like, can we just discuss? Like, I think I need I think we need sweatshirts that are like hashtag crunchy, hashtag God bless, hashtag live, laugh, love. You know me. Like, I think we need merch. Like, I'm like moving in that direction. And I don't know if you know this about me. Like, wow, this is really going on a tangent, but, I come from a family business that actually is merch, like actually is physical product. So when I was first starting my business, I was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do, right? It's like, Erica, no, like, God bless you, but like, you're in like services, like you're not giving away things. So, we learn, we live and we grow. But I, in the beginning, spent so much money. The amount of merch I have, like, I'm like, do I actually have a sweatshirt? It's the other day I was going through stuff and I'm like, oh, I feel bad. I have a pillow. I have tote bags. I'm not kidding you. I'm actually not kidding you. I have 5,000 pens. I mean, they're beautiful. If you want some, I'm happy to send. Like, literally, if you want anything, let me know. I have shit tons. I have pens with a beautiful purple. They're a black, gorgeous pen with a purple top. All of it We the Light merch. Like, LOL. Like, I have a We the Light fucking pillow. Why do I need a We the Light pillow? I have We the Light totes. I have We the Light pens. It's like, We the Light. What? Because life is so much brighter when you shine. And then it's like, go to www.wethelight.org. So I have those. I have totes. Oh, they're all over everywhere. Honestly, everywhere I go, I'm like, oh, there they are again. I have probably less than the pens. I would say at least minimal, because I remember ordering it, minimal 500 bright pink. I mean, they're cute as fuck. Like hot pink stress balls. Because life is brighter when we shine. www.wethelight.org. Like, LOL, like, like, and then I have tons of fucking merch, like bookmarks that are like actually hot because it's like affirmations. So I'm like, go Erica, like, look at you, you little mogul in your 20s when you started. But like, I didn't need merch. So like, I always say like I need merch, but I'm like, if we move into the merch category, like it's gonna be like sweatshirts or like funny shit or like a phone case, you know what I mean? And the phone case probably be like, you're hot. Yeah. But anyway, so I do have shit tons of merch. If you're ever like, hey, can you send me some pens? Like, literally happily. Because this is absurd at this point. Like, who needs fucking thousands of We the Light pens? But anyway, going back to the biz, being a service-based business, not a merchandise-based business, LOL, Erica, my services, I really have... I actually, thinking about it, I have more free resources than paid. So I'm like, take advantage of those free resources. This is where we can be selfish and be, take it all in. But get the free resources. There are, as I said, 36 times. If you saw the stress ball, you know, www.wethelight.org. www.wethelight.org. And I have shit tons of free resources. Obviously, we got the podcast. Obviously, we have, not obviously, but we have the podcast. We have my blog, which I love to talk. And I add humor, but like I actually am like a little bit more serious in my writing. Cause I'm like, hello, we only have these many paragraphs. Let's get to the point. But like also, he has humor. So we have the blog, we have the podcast, we have my free ebook, which is a really quick read. It goes right to your email and it's like packed with tools and tips. And that book is called From Perfectionist to Pleasure Expert. It's an ebook. You get it via email. And then we have the big kahuna, which I've talked about. And that's my consultation, my free consultation, which is like kind of rare these days. It's like an old school like way of doing business, like in the coaching world. Like back in the day, everyone's like, have my free consultation and we'll see if we're fit to work together. And then like the trend of the industry, like that kind of died out. But I'm like, I don't know. Like for me, it works because you're going to be spending time with me. You're going to be spending money. Like, I don't want you to be like, fuck, like I'm stuck with this wild girl, like I want to, or like, I want you to feel like, yes, like this investment, this time is worth it. So again, like that phased out in the coaching business, but hashtag being true to me. So that's not really an offer anymore in the coaching industry. Here and there, you'll see it. But it'll be like 10-minute consultation. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing 10 minutes? God bless. I'm happy for your business, but I'm a talker if you couldn't tell. So I'm like, what? So like, that's like not as readily available. So if anything that we're talking about resonates, book it. Cause like as much as it's hot for me right now, who knows if I'll phase out of it? Who knows, what we'll create, what we'll phase out of, et cetera, et cetera. So the free call goes up to 60 minutes and it's like a mini consultation. It's a mini call. You'll get a little bit taste of what I do. I'll give you some homework. And then really what we do is we see if we're fit to work together. Or if you're not, all good, I could recommend others. Or you could be like, hey, just give me resources and great stuff. Fantastic. So definitely take up on that resource because it might not be here forever. It's a juicy resource. And that's also on the website, www.wethelight.org. Okay, so here we go. We're going back. So I know we like kind of touched upon it and you probably heard me like alluding to it, but the juice, the special sauce of taking a breath, the special sauce of giving, right? Like if we could bibbity boppity boo and it's the most fabulous version of giving. For me, it's not from a place of martyrdom. Martyr. Like it's not from a place of, oh my God, I am absolutely fucking depleted and just take my blood, take my soul, take my life. Like it's not. Thank you. You can get the CD at the back of the theater. Like it's not from that place. It's from, I feel really juicy, so I can give. Also, this is why and I've talked about this before, this is why the pleasure work is important. Because not only are you juicy and feeling good, but you then have more space to give to others. I've said this before. It's a corny example, but go with me. I always look at it like a bank account, right? Where we want to obviously stay in the green, but like life happens, like trauma happens, things out of our circumstances happen that like put us sometimes in the red. But I want us to be conscious of that. We're not going to make it wrong and be like, I'm not going to go help that person because it's going to put me in the red. That's where I'm talking like, ew, what in the selfishness is happening? But being conscious of, okay, I know that situation is going to deplete me. It's going to put me in the red. But how can I then hold myself and put some green in? Does that make sense? Like, okay, I have to go to this, or I'm dealing with grief. Like, we can't outrun grief to be like, ew, you're so selfish. This is about me. Like, no. But, like, if we're going to be in the red, depleting, and usually, honestly, when we're in grief, we don't even think about this stuff. But go with me. I'm giving an example that we kind of can't outrun. But grief, right? Like, pretend there's something that's taking from us without our control. Does that make sense? That's putting us in the red. Okay, great. My question is, no problem, we're in the red. How can we add a little bit of green? And the green is holding ourselves, making sure we have self-care, making sure we're around supportive people, whatever brings more green to the quote unquote bank account. Does that make sense before I sashay and move on? Great. So here's the thing. If you're already on red, right? Like from like work and circumstances, if you're already on red and then you try to give, LOL, it's all fucking energy. So someone will feel, first of all, you'll be resentful as fuck, probably, and you will feel crunchy and like they could feel that, like, why are they giving me like this? Feel like I didn't ask for this. Like this feels fucking weird. So my invitation is, how can we give from a filled cup? Because it serves no one when we're like at -10 and we're like, and I'm still gonna give. It's like, no, it's all right. Like you're not serving yourself, you're not serving others. It's stressing us all out. So it's like, what would it be like to like a chiropractic adjustment, just reset and then give from that place? What would it be like to give from a cup runneth over? I said this before, but I think it's powerful. Doing this work, I've seen so many different types of parents come in, right? And, parenthood is stressful AF. And before the work, they were like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. And I get fresh with my kids and this and that. And then when they felt like, but how am I going to have space to do this work? When they started to do this work and they started to take care of themselves and they started to cup runneth over, they were like, yes, like their parenthood changed significantly. And here's the thing, right? This is what we were talking about before with like the selfishness, right? It's like you have to put you have to put on the breath thing, when it flies from the flight? Oxygen mask. There it is. You have to put your own seatbelt on. You have to put your own oxygen mask. That's the work, right? Like you got to do that for yourself. Or you don't gotta, but you have to. Or what? You don't have to. You don't gotta. It's strongly recommended. It would feel good. If you don't want to, God bless. I support you as well. But does that make sense? It would be strongly suggested to buckle up your own seatbelt, put on your own oxygen mask. What does that mean? That means you're taking care of yourself, you're investing in yourself, whether it's coaching or therapy or reading or growing. You are doing the work to make sure the oxygen is going in, right? And that's the green in the bank account. You're making sure that you're depositing, whether the deposits are big deposits, like, ooh, I'm going to a coaching session today, boom, big deposit, or I spent 5 minutes laying on the floor floor breathing, boom, green. Or I did that, like we're adding green, like that is us adding the green. That's giving us the oxygen, juicy, 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 juicy. Play, Alexa, play Juice by Lizzo. Actually I shouldn't say that too loud because she's like playing Juice by Lizzo. But does that make sense? Like we are, we're buckled up. We got the oxygen. We're doing it. We're doing it live. Great. The giving, right, from like the parent example, just because that's a powerful example, is then we're not giving from like, like I'm at nothing. Like, how dare you? We're like, baby, I got my oxygen mask on. I'm free flowing. I could show up for you 26 times better, more full than I ever have before. And let me tell you, it's a wild ride to see these parents show up so differently, and to see the before and after is wild. Like they'd be like yelling at their kids, they'd be making their kids wrong, and that's okay. I mean, I get it. It's extremely fucking stressful. But like seeing how they changed as a parent, whoa, that they're like, hey, like that they were filled up, they had more compassion, they could see their kids more. And also take this, I'm just giving a basic parent example, but you could use that across the board. Parent, being a parent or being a caregiver or just being a friend, right? Like if we're at nothing and your friend's like, hey, good example, right? I talked about this last week, how my amazing friends planned me a birthday party. I'm going to assume if my friend was at total depletion, she'd be like, fuck you, I can't. Like, and I'd be like, no problem. But because she was taking such good care of herself, and I'll ask her, I'm going to fact check this. But because she was taking good care of herself and she was filled up, it was like butter to plan. I mean, obviously there was other things, going on. But does that make sense? Like it wasn't like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I have nothing else to give and you're asking me for this. Like it was like, I'm filled up, baby. Like, let's go. Let's ride. And I know for me too, let's use this for a client. When I am working with clients and I'm depleted, I'm like, oh boy, like I am crunchy Sally. And that's why a huge part of my work is doing this work to make sure I'm filled, because, and you might be like, what the fuck? But like a huge part of my work is obviously in the session with clients, is obviously going in there, but a huge part of it that often isn't talked about and often we make wrong is me doing the work. Otherwise, if I'm crunchy, I'm gonna be like, I mean, I never am, because you know me. Like, I would never fucking do that. But I'm more like, I don't have the capacity. I don't have the space to hold you. And that's an integrity for me. And integrity for me means deeply fucking holding you, deeply being with you. So my work isn't just in the room. It isn't just in the Zoom room. It isn't just in the group. It isn't just in the call. It isn't just honestly, in this fucking podcast. It isn't just in these things. It's outside of it. Because if I'm feeling crunchy as fuck, which you've heard me many times come to the podcast to record crunchy as fuck, I can't fully give, and we're not gonna make it wrong. We're not gonna make it bad. But when I'm juiced up, I'm like, fuck it, let's record, or like, fuck yeah, let's go give that speech, or fuck yeah, let's go on the call with the client. So much of my work is not just what you see, right? Like the marketing or the podcast or the book, the ebook or the coaching or the speaking. Sure, those are huge fucking components of the business, but a real underbelly that we don't talk about, that to make this thing run and function in integrity, I got to do the work for myself. And not like, I'm doing the work for myself, so like you can't talk to me because of boundaries. No, like a healthy relationship to it. Like I got to take care of myself. I got to take care of myself because I am holding so many amazing humans. And to me, I want to give them the most. And how do I give them the most? When I am in overflow. You can't, it's like writing a fucking check, right? Like, let's go back to the bank account example. If I'm writing you a check, right? And I'm writing you a check for 20K, God bless, deposit. And I'm writing you a check for 20K, right? But I have negative $10,000 in my bank account, and Chase is calling me and they're like, overdraft fee. Like it's actually genuinely not going to happen. Like you're fucked. Like it's not you're fucked, but like, first of all, the check is going to bounce, or like if by the grace of God, it does, now you're $30,000 in debt, or an overdraft fee. Like, what are we doing? Like, how is that actually genuinely going to happen? And maybe you get a check for $30,000 that day and then boom, it pays back off, but you're still kind of like the energy, right? Like it just does not work. But if I write you a check for $20,000, right, energetically, and I'm in 100K, okay. Or if I'm in 1,000,000, I'm like, no problem. And here's the thing. I need to get good at also, how do I say this? Knowing when I'm running on empty. Not even, running on empty is like, that's when you know, like, red flag, holy shit. But I even need to know when I'm starting to like, uh-oh, okay, like, I'm not going to make this wrong. I'm not going to make this bad, but I feel some energy leakages. I feel like I'm starting to spill out some energy. So I know, okay, let's get back to, let's say, 100K, because I know I have clients all day today, and that's going to be like 20. And I want to make sure I'm like well-resourced and well taken care of. Does that example make sense? Again, like a very specific example, because I am a coach, like I need to make sure like I am taken care of and I feel good. So I am like, woo, like I am giving them 120. But also, like, you don't have to be a coach for this to make sense. Like, this could also be like being a friend, you know what I mean? Being a good partner, living a life that you want. Like, we don't even have the time and energy to have and receive, like we talked about last week, like a hashtag life you love. If you're like, bitch, I'm on fucking empty, like, that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So like the giving goes both ways, right? It gives outward, but it also gives inward to us, making sure that we are so full that we can give from a genuine overflowing place. Make sense? So what I want you to do, and I think we've talked about this before, but like, let's bring back some tools, is some homework that I'd love for you to play with. Home play. We'll say home play because homework sounds fucking aggressive. Some home play that I'd love for you to play with is like, just start being mindful of your quote unquote bank account. And you can be mindful of your other bank account too. We love that. We love financial freedom, honey. But being mindful of your energetic bank account. And I just want you to be mindful. I don't want to make yourself wrong. I don't want to make you wrong. I just want us to be mindful of like, oh shit, okay, yeah. Like, you know what? I actually thought watching 6 hours of Game of Thrones was good for me, but like, oh fuck. Okay, no problem. I'm noticing it's actually taking money out of my account. And again, this is not from a point of like perfection or like, I need to wake up at 5 a.m. to like have the bank account at 1,000,000. Like, not necessarily. Why did Moira come out at the end? 1,000,000. But like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't need to be full aggressive vibes. It's just, okay, where am I noticing? Like, what actually kind of bleeds me out? And not making that situation wrong or bad, but like, I'm just going to create consciousness around this. Like, what bleeds me out? What depletes me? And here's a real kicker. What fills me up? And how can I add more of that? And I know we all have crazy busy schedules, so we don't have time to like have fun in the sun. Like, not all of us have time to have like fun in the sun and be feathered all day long, which God bless, that's a goal. But my question to you is, in the context of a wild day, in the context of busyness and craziness and so many things happen, how can I add, it doesn't need to be a huge deposit, but how can I add little deposits? So maybe I'm still at work, right? Maybe I'm at work. And, you know, that could be a little bit, you know, like, ugh, doesn't feel the best. But like, okay, I'm going to do my work. What if I pour myself a gorgeous cup of tea? And as I do these spreadsheets, I put on my favorite music. Like, okay, like, it's not a huge deposit, but like, we added some sprinkles, right? Like we talked about before, we added those sprinkles to ourselves. We added the sparkles. We added a little bit of green. Okay. So for the next week, and feel free to chat with me. You can go to my website, email me, or Insta, which is at @WeTheLight_LLC. And let's talk. Like, I'm curious. I think a nice homework to reflect on would be just noticing like where you're depleting, where you're bleeding out, and how do you deposit, and how often do you deposit? You know, how often do you deposit? Do you want to deposit more? So like, not making ourselves wrong, not making like huge like decisions or transformations. I think like, let's, for the next week or so, just like notice. And I'm also going to play this game with you too. Every assignment that I ever give clients or audience members, like, I have done them 4 million times. And with clients, whenever I give them a homework, like, I try to do it too, because I'm like, no, like, I also want to show up for this. So like, I'm going to do this assignment with you too. Like, for the next week, for the next 2 weeks, whatever it is, I'm also going to notice where I'm bleeding out energetically, and where I can give to myself, and where I can deposit a little bit more. Does that make sense? So let's do a baby frame before we hop. I've been doing that last episode too. I don't know why. There's just there's an impulse to frame what we talked about. So yeah, we talked about giving from an authentic place versus a poor me, I have to narrative. Something also important to add is there's so many stories on why. We talked about this on receiving, but there's so many stories why we shouldn't receive. You're bad, you're lazy, you're looked at as dumb, stupid. But giving, there's also a thing too. If we don't give, there's also a lot of cultural stories of you're a horrible person, you're selfish. So there's a lot to unpack with giving and receiving. So we talked about giving from an authentic place, right? We talked about the bank account example. We talked about not giving from depletion. And giving from overflow, and examples like parenthood, friends. I talked about me, how I have my business. And then the last baby frame I'll give was my frame about my grandma, and what she would say, which would help her get out of a funk. And I gave you the baby example, about my client way back in the day in group, where when we get out of our own way and we serve, it really is electric. And it's healing, and it's deeply profound. Again, there's nuances to that. It doesn't mean bypass. It doesn't mean your stuff's not important. That's not what I'm saying. It's from a place of genuinely connecting, giving, and remembering there's something bigger than us. Does that make sense? So we talked about a lot, and I'm so excited for next week because we have a totally different topic, but kind of interconnected, and I think you're going to be so jazzed. So I'm obsessed with you. I love you. I hope you give to yourself so deeply in this next week. I hope you really give to yourself, and I hope you give to others, not from a place of should, or I have to, or it would be nice, or it's the politically correct right thing to do. I hope you genuinely give to someone from a place of connection, of wanting to spread the sparkles, spread the sprinkles. I hope you genuinely give this next week. Like I said, to yourself, to others, in a way that lights you up, puts you in the green, and spreads #love and light. Yes. Okay, you're hot. I fucking love you. And I'll talk to you next week. Bye. Yeah. Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode and on this podcast journey. And if you loved what we talked about today and you know another human who could definitely benefit from what was discussed, I would so appreciate if you would go ahead and share this podcast with them. Don't forget, hit subscribe or follow so you never ever miss an episode. And the great news is you can always follow me, my work, my blog, my podcast on my website at www.wethelight.org. And hey, remember, life is so much brighter when we shine. I'll see you next time.